It is time.
But who? Who is worthy to be trusted with the secret to limitless power to become the Dragon Warrior?
At its core, Kung Fu Panda is a narrative about self-discovery, a theme that is illustrated through recurring imagery. For example, in Kung Fu Panda 1, we're introduced to the concept of the Dragon Scroll, which is said to grant unimaginable power to whoever possesses it. However, when the scroll is finally opened, it appears empty. To someone who does not understand it, the scroll is useless. It is only when Po looks beyond its physical appearance that he arrives at its true meaning. There is no secret ingredient.
There is no secret ingredient. It's just you.
The power was never in the scroll itself, but within the individual. To understand its meaning, one must look inward rather than focus on the external. This lesson, carefully constructed by Oogway for the Dragon Warrior, highlights the path Po should pursue in order to fulfill his destiny. In the first film, Po is chosen as the Dragon Warrior, destined to become a great master and bring peace to the valley. But how can Po possibly bring peace to the valley if he does not first have peace within himself? This raises the central question of the trilogy. If Po is supposed to be the Dragon Warrior, then who is Po? This is the question that Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3 seek to answer, as Po embarks on a journey to discover who he is and who he is meant to become as Dragon Warrior. But for now, let this suffice as a prelude, as we lay the foundations for what we're going to explore in this video, reflecting on Po's journey and watching his growth into the Dragon Warrior. The first time we meet Po, it's through an inward manifestation of himself. He dreams of being a great kung fu master who travels the land, defeating evil and protecting the innocent.
See, you like to chew. Maybe you should chew on my fist!
It's also interesting to note the visual tone of this intro sequence. In Kung Fu Panda, the color palette conveys a story in its own right. The warrior Po dreams of becoming is enveloped in a yellow glow, symbolizing the goodness and nobility Po desires to possess. That is, until he's dragged down from the high and lofty dream of being a great Kung Fu master back into the mundane life of being a noodle cook. Through this, Po expresses a deep longing for something greater. Po even asks his adopted father, Mr. Ping, if he ever desired something more than just selling noodles, to which he responds yes, but ultimately gave up on that dream to become a noodle cook, because broth runs through his veins.
It was the dream. We are noodle folk. Broth runs through our veins.
But Dad, didn't you ever, I don't know, want to do something else? Something besides noodles?
But this isn't what Po desires for himself. He's not content with a life merely selling noodles. As the camera pans to the Jade Palace, situated high upon the mountain, the imagery reflects exactly what Po desires for himself. Something more lofty, something higher than the ordinary life he feels trapped in. I think now would be a good time to speak about Po's character. Throughout the trilogy, Po is portrayed as naive and yet humble, which I take to symbolize a childlike innocence. Po loves Kung Fu because it is desirable to him, not out of a longing for power or wealth. In fact, in his dream, someone offers to pay him, to which he simply replies, "There is no charge for awesomeness." This contrasts with someone like Tai Lung, who wanted to become the Dragon Warrior of his own ambitions, not for the sake of others. When Oogway perceived this in Tai Lung's heart and rejected him, Tai Lung lashed out at the very people he was meant to protect. This is also why Tigress was not chosen. She wanted to become the Dragon Warrior out of a desire to prove herself, especially to Shifu. While Tigress was not evil like Tai Lung, her motivation for becoming the Dragon Warrior was still rooted in personal ambition. So while both Tai Lung and Tigress were more physically fit for the role, neither had the right heart. While Oogway was able to look beyond Po's physical appearance as a flabby panda, he looked into his heart and saw the noble and virtuous qualities within him, as well as what Po could become if given enough guidance.
But a peach cannot defeat Tai Lung.
Maybe it can, if you are willing to guide it, to nurture it, to believe in it.
But no one saw this within him. Po's appearance alone led people to write him off at the outset. How could a panda learn Kung Fu? Shifu said it was a mistake that he was chosen, and the five hated him. Po himself, who is more than aware of this, doesn't deny it.
Then why didn't you quit? You knew I was trying to get rid of you, yet you stayed.
Yeah, I stayed. I stayed because every time you threw a brick at my head or said I smelled, it hurt. But it could never hurt more than it did every day of my life just being me.
Po is extremely aware of this fact, more so than anyone else. But he does want to change. He wants to become a better person. So throughout the first film, this is Po's struggle. He desperately wants to improve himself, but he's constantly written off in everyone's eyes. No one tries to nurture his potential, but this is exactly what Oogway was asking Shifu to do. Allow the peach tree to grow and guide it in the right path. Before Oogway left, he made a promise to Shifu that whoever the Dragon Warrior was would bring inner peace to himself.
Now know this, old friend. Whomever I choose will not only bring peace to the valley, but also to you.
Po accomplished this in Shifu by way of example. Shifu had to learn how to have faith, because when he looked at Po, all he could see was a waste of time. But when Shifu actually gave Po a fair shot at learning Kung Fu, he was proven wrong in his assumptions about the panda. This was further exemplified when Po defeated Tai Lung. All of this forced Shifu to reflect, and in realizing his error, Shifu was able to begin his own path towards inner peace. A lot more could be said about the effect Po had on Shifu, but let this suffice for now.
Inner peace of what?
It is the next phase of your training. Every master must find his path to inner peace.
In order for the Dragon Warrior to bring peace, he himself must first possess inner peace. But here's the thing, Po does not have inner peace. In fact, he is inwardly conflicted by his past. Because of this, Po must confront his origins and discover where he came from in order to attain inner peace. This becomes a central struggle of the second film. Po is forced to wrestle with questions about his past. The first time he is confronted with this reality, it hits him like a hammer, literally. During the fight with the wolf bandits, Po catches a glimpse of their symbol and experiences a brief vision of his mother. This moment further ignites the conflict within him. These visions act as a sort of catalyst for Po. He desperately tries to force himself into inner peace, yet at the same time he suppresses the very memories that could lead him to it. What is intriguing, however, is that even after confronting Shen, Po still does not receive the answers he's looking for. Shen himself is inwardly conflicted, desperately forcing himself down a path of evil and self-destruction.
Feel some crater in your soul. Well, here's your answer. Your parents didn't love you.
Even the old goat, despite knowing the truth, didn't tell Po what happened to the pandas. Inner peace is something Po must discover for himself. This is illustrated when he returns to the destroyed panda village and finally confronts his past. Only by learning where he came from can Po come to terms with it and obtain inner peace.
Should, Shen. You gotta let go of that stuff from the past, because it just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you choose to be now.
The significance of what Po says to Shen at the end of the second film highlights the state of Po's mind and how he ultimately obtained inner peace. Even though he had an extremely painful past and was standing before the very person responsible for killing his mother and destroying the pandas, Po still does not seek revenge. Instead, he offers Shen a path towards redemption and forgiveness. But instead of accepting Po's forgiveness and choosing a path of good, Shen chooses a path of evil by attacking Po. That decision ultimately leads to Shen's death by the very weapon he created, symbolizing that evil is ultimately a path of self-destruction. Po, however, chooses a different path. He accepts what happened in the past, understanding it is not something he can change. But rather than allowing the past to consume him and lead him down the same path of darkness as Shen, Po instead uses those memories as motivation to become a better person, ultimately coming to terms with who he is. But Po's journey has not concluded. Po may have accepted who he currently is, but as Shifu says in the third film, if you only do what you can do now, you will never be more than what you are. Shifu says this because Po had become somewhat complacent in his journey towards becoming the Dragon Warrior. In many ways, Po believed he already understood what it meant to be the Dragon Warrior. And it is true that Po at this point has mastered Kung Fu. Even in the second film, you can clearly see the synergy that he has with the Furious Five. He's very skilled at Kung Fu to say the least. But the role of the Dragon Warrior is greater than that. The prophecy is that the Dragon Warrior will be a guide who helps others to understand who they are. This is something Po does not understand yet. To further illustrate this to Po, Shifu introduces him to Chi, something that can only be obtained through complete mastery of the self. The reason Po cannot currently use Chi is because he has not yet mastered himself. Po still needs to learn what it means to be a guide and a teacher. In this way, Chi acts as a sort of catalyst for Po, revealing to him that he still has much to learn about himself. This is also why Kai is such a fitting final villain. Kai is someone who has mastered himself, yet chose a path of greed, destruction, and corruption. This stands in direct contrast to the path of the Dragon Warrior, which is one of generosity, integrity, and nobility. Kai takes life by stealing chi, while the Dragon Warrior gives life by teaching and sharing chi. Their conflict becomes the ultimate battle between good and evil. Poe must therefore learn what it means to be the Dragon Warrior in order to obtain chi and defeat Kai.
It was never my destiny to stop you. I have set another on that path.
This was the battle Oogway was preparing Poe for. In the first film, Oogway prepared the Dragon Scroll, which would teach the Dragon Warrior that true power lies within. That was the first lesson, which gave Poe the confidence to defeat Kai alone. But Poe needed another lesson, how to be a teacher. This is why at the end of Kung Fu Panda 2, Oogway sends a message to Lee, Poe's father. The purpose of this is to give Poe the opportunity to teach others. The pandas, who were once masters of Chi, had forgotten who they are. So when Lee arrives claiming he can teach Poe Chi, the twist is that the pandas themselves are actually the ones in need of teaching. They have forgotten who they are, and because of this, they have also forgotten how to use Chi. It's also fitting that the ones Oogway sends a message to are pandas, just like Poe. In the same lesson, Poe once taught Shifu, which helped him on his path towards becoming a better teacher. The pandas also end up teaching Poe that very same lesson. When Kai is about to attack, the pandas offer to help Poe fight. He almost writes them off, just like how Poe was written off in the first film. It's also ironic how the third film depicts the pandas as helpless, constantly eating, lazy, and seemingly useless, much like how Poe was once seen in the first film. But in that moment, Poe realizes that if he can change, surely they can too. This realization culminates in Poe's final battle with Kai, when Poe is enveloped in Kai's chi attack. It symbolizes the state of Poe's mind throughout the series. Oogway had chosen him as Dragon Warrior, yet Poe remained bound by doubt and uncertainty. The chains represent the doubts that held him back, while the darkness surrounding him represents the confusion clouding his mind from understanding himself. But it is only by becoming a guide that Poe can finally understand what it means to be the Dragon Warrior. In the end, it is through all the people Poe helps to discover who they are that he can finally realize who he is as Dragon Warrior, something that was being hinted to from the very beginning.